Today I want to do a video about how to invest in your 20s. In order to do this, I'm going to make a few assumptions. I'm going to assume that you're a young person in their early 20s and you've got maybe a part-time job or full-time job where you've just started your career and maybe you're living at home or you've got the opportunity to live at home. This is not for everyone, but for the vast majority of young persons that are in their early 20s, this is going to be suitable for you because you're able to leverage off the position you're in to go ahead and start your investing career. Step number one, analyze and reduce your expenses. So one of the great ways that you can have your expenses reduced is your living situation. So if you're currently living at home with your parents, for instance, then that's a great way to save money because generally, one, you don't usually have to pay a lot of money to the household if you're living at home. A bunch of people are as fortunate enough to not have to pay anything whilst they're living at home. So that means your expenses are very low or near nothing whilst you're living at home. So it's a great way to really use that opportunity to save money. Another thing is don't get a car on finance. Instead, use that money that you'd ordinarily use to spend on that car finance and put it towards saving towards your deposit. Try and avoid things like high and expensive mobile phone contracts. Enjoy yourself, but again, it's not about living in excess. If you want to achieve it, if you don't want to go ahead and invest your money in your early 20s and you want to go out and spend money and have fun, each to their own. I totally respect that if that's what you want to do. But if you're serious about investing, set out a plan for how much you're going to save and how much your expenses are and how much your income is. So you always want to pay yourself first, and by that I mean you prioritize. Once you get paid, you set your money aside on how much you're going to save first. Prioritize your payment over any other payment. For instance, your water bill. If you owe money on your water bill, they can wait another couple of weeks for payment maybe, opposed to you paying yourself so you can invest. 2. If you're really serious about investing, then you want to humble yourself. You're probably in a job that you don't like and working for a boss that you don't like, doing extra hours at work, working with people you don't necessarily like, but that job is paying you money and providing you with income. You may be frustrated that you're living at home and your friends are maybe living in their own places or they've even bought places and you're still at home with your parents and it's uncomfortable because it doesn't feel good. You feel like maybe you're not achieving. Once you've got your long-term strategy and your goal in mind, then all these other little things like being frustrated at home becomes irrelevant. So it's not going to be easy. It's a very minor setback. If you even call it a setback, I'd probably call it a setup. 3, additional income. You've done all the steps beforehand. You've gone to reduce your expenses, but how do you actually get to the position where you're scaling up the amount of deposit you have? You're in a position right now to leverage off your current skills and your current experience to provide a service to somebody so you can earn additional income. If you're good at drawing or you're a designer, you can reach out to business people or put an advert out and say Upwork or Fiverr and earn additional income. You may be someone that is pretty hands-on, so you could put yourself on Gumtree and advertise yourself as somebody that can do odd jobs or garden clearances or something pretty basic. It's all about getting active. Is there a local business you can go to and ask them if they need an extra pair of hands on the weekend? Can you set up an online business? Go to Shopify and create a website where people can transact with you. Do the extra thing to produce additional income for yourself, so you've then got that money to invest. Get an account on the side. So this is a bank account that you can't readily access. So something that doesn't have access to online banking, doesn't have a card you can readily access and withdraw the funds. Put money into that account and you'll quickly build up this pot and have something there to invest at a later date. Number 4 is now getting educated. Educate yourself on property, read as many books as you can, listen to as many podcasts as you can, articles, blogs, watching content on YouTube. Get to grips with the basics of property and learn as much as you can. There's plenty of content out there. Then try to get yourself out there a bit more and go to some maybe property networking events, and eventually try and find yourself a mentor in property, and if possible go and work for them, even if it means working for free, so you're then able to leverage that experience and that exposure to that person who's successful in property and eventually go and implement that on your own. It's a lot safer because you've got the direct and hands-on experience. Just a caveat, a mentor isn't a necessity in order to go ahead and start investing in property. Don't use it as an excuse for not investing. And a mentor doesn't need to be someone in an official capacity. Just find someone you can ask advice from every now and again, and then eventually hopefully get in a meeting with them. If that person's giving you advice and they're giving you help and maybe a few contacts, and in effect they're becoming your mentor, especially if they've got a lot more experience than you. Number 5 is get started. done all the steps 1 to 4, you've reduced your expenses, you've humbled yourself, you've got some additional income now, so you've got more money to invest, you've educated yourself, now you're ready to start spending your own cash and maybe even invest this money into a property deal. This isn't going to be something that's going to take you 2 or 3 months to do. So I'd actually spend 12 to 18 months on the planning side and the earning side and the income side and sorting your financial situation out before you then start investing. So a great way to start investing and getting yourself on the property ladder is to try and find a house where you can then rent out the additional rooms. You can get properties and you can get mortgages that require as little as a 5% deposit. Now you've got to check with the lender, because a bunch of lenders won't accept the fact that you're going to be renting out of rooms in your house because you'll potentially be classed as a landlord to them. So just make sure you speak to your mortgage broker and get the right advice, and you've got the right mortgage products, and the lender allows you to rent out the other rooms, especially as a first time buyer. So if you can find a 3-bed house that's worth 150 grand and put down a 5% deposit, that 5% deposit would be 7.5 grand. Then you deduct probably going to be another £1,000 in legal fees in order to purchase the property, and that's it. There's no stamp duty to pay because that's been removed for houses for first time buyers up to 300 grand, I believe it is. Your mortgage payment may come out in the region of £400 to £500, pretty low. If you can turn that 3-bedroom house and turn 2 of the spare room plus hopefully a dining room that you've got into 3 bedrooms, then you've got a great way to earn additional income. So if each of those rooms generated you £350 a month in rent each, that'd be £1,050. That £1,050 can be used to pay for your £500 mortgage, then pay your council tax, maybe put 100 quid out of that, deduct your gas, electric, water, internet, insurance, call that another 250 quid. You'd actually have a bit of money left. You may have to revert back to number 2 and humble yourself, because you may not necessarily want to live with people initially in your own house because you've got your own space and you finally worked hard and saved up your deposit and you've got your own place, and now you got to share it with people you don't even know. You don't have to do that, but again, if you're very serious about investing early on, then it's a great way to do it. That excess money can be used towards additional savings that you can then invest later on. This brings us on to point 6, which is buying an investment property. So now you've got your own mortgage, you've lived in your house for a period of at least 6 months, and maybe you've saved some money, you've got some cash left over, you're then ready to then go and buy a buy-to-let property. You need to most likely budget in the region of about 25% deposit for a buy-to-let. Some mortgage lenders do as low as 15%, but if you aim for about 25, that's pretty safe. Again, maybe in the region of £150,000. So the 2 main criteria you need, potentially 3, but 2 is, 1 is the location. So it needs to be in a good location, and the location needs good demand. It doesn't need to be in the best location, because the best locations are usually the ones that have the more expensive properties, so that they may be a bit more difficult for you to get into that market there and purchase a property, especially for your first investment. So the good locations are usually ones on the periphery or the edge of better areas. So what usually happens is the great areas become quite saturated and there's a lot of demand in there and rents go up, and what happens is it slowly starts to expand. People that would ordinarily be looking for the best areas maybe can't find things within the price range, so they start to look for properties just outside of that, and that's how good areas start to expand, and there's plenty of examples of that all over the country. Again, you've got to speak to estate agents, letting agents, and work out where the demand is. The second thing, which is usually important, is buying for the right price. Naturally, that price is determined by the location and the condition of the property, the type of property it is. But beyond that, you need to buy below market value. So below market value is a price of the property that is less than what the actual market value is. That value would usually be valued by a surveyor or maybe an estate agent, or at least as a minimum what other properties have sold for in the area. So the comparable sales. So if there are other properties on the street that have sold for 100 grand and you've looked at the comparable sales, so you've seen that properties on the street in the past 6 to 12 months have sold for £100,000, and you've been able to secure a property on that same street, similar type of property, for £75,000, then that property is then classed as 25% below market value, which is a great deal to have. You can then buy that property with your 20 or 25% deposit. 6 to 12 months later, ideally, then try and refinance that property based on the comparable sales. If you go back to a bank and say, look, I want to refinance on this property to pay off my existing loan, look, my property's worth 100 grand. then they may be able to give you a loan for £75,000 that pays off your existing mortgage and gives you back the deposit that you put in. So it's a great way then to use that deposit that you initially put into the 75 grand house to then start again on another investment, and then that's how you start to get going. But remember, you're still doing your work on the side, your freelance services, you're still producing extra income, you're still homeing yourself, you're still renting out rooms in your house. Now you've got your investment property that should be cash flowing, so the money that's coming in from the rent and the money that's going out on your expenses, like the mortgage and the insurance, the money left over is classed as cash flow. That's rental profit. That rental profit should also be put towards the additional money that you've got. So that means that you're earning more money basically, and then you can ramp up your investing that way. There you go. So that's how to invest in your 20s. It's quite a fairly long-winded explanation. But I'm just trying to be realistic. I think a lot of advice out there sometimes is conflicting and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't apply to a lot of people, and a lot of them talk about no money down strategies. And maybe you don't want to work with other people, maybe you want to just put your own money in. So it's a great way to start. And you can start as young. If you're only 17 or 18 watching this now, you could be in a perfect position by the time you're 20 or 21. Or even if you're 16 and you're watching this, you could save up 5 to 10 grand in 3 or 4 years if you really graft. I'm sure you could save a couple £100 a month. If you really want this, go ahead and do as I suggest. If you don't really want it, then go and have fun. We've got one life, it's up to you. Just don't complain about not having property or investment property, or how hard things are later on in life in 10 years time if you're not willing to make a small sacrifice now.